Napoleon famously said, "An army marches on its stomach." But during World War II for the United States, it wasn't just marching, it was fighting across every ocean and continent, and feeding over 12 million soldiers became a war of its own, a monumental challenge of logistics, science, and sheer willpower that has never been equaled. This is the incredible story of how America fed its fighting forces, a global supply chain that stretched from the farm fields of the Midwest to the front lines of Normandy and the jungles of Guadalcanal. So, how do you even begin to feed an army the size of a country? We're talking about 12 million men and women, scattered across the globe. Each one needed about 4,500 calories a day to stay in fighting shape. Do the math, and you get a staggering figure. Over 54 billion calories needed every single day. This wasn't just about cooking meals, it was about creating the largest and most complex food supply chain in human history. It involved farmers, factory workers, scientists, truck drivers, and cooks, an entire nation mobilized to keep its soldiers fueled. At the heart of this effort were the rations. You've probably heard of them, but the system was incredibly sophisticated for its time. There were three main types. First, the K ration. This was the individual combat ration, designed by nutritionist Ansel Keys to be light enough for a paratrooper to carry into battle. It came in 3 boxes for breakfast, dinner, and supper, containing things like canned meat, biscuits, a fruit bar, and that all-important instant coffee. It was compact, calorie-dense, and meant for short-term use on the front lines. Then you had the C ration. This was the workhorse field ration. It consisted of canned pre-cooked meals like meat and beans or meat and vegetable stew. They were heavier than K rations but offered more variety and a more substantial meal for troops who weren't in direct, continuous combat. These cans could be eaten cold, but as any veteran will tell you, they were infinitely better when heated over a small fire or on a vehicle's engine block. The C ration was the taste of war for millions of GIs. Finally, there was the D ration bar. This was the emergency ration, and it was never meant to be enjoyable. It was a 3-bar block of fortified chocolate, designed to withstand high temperatures and provide a quick burst of energy. It was deliberately made to taste just okay, so soldiers wouldn't be tempted to eat it as a casual snack. Its sole purpose was survival, something to keep you going when all else failed. These 3 rations, K, C, and D, formed the backbone of the soldier's diet, each designed for a specific combat scenario. This massive undertaking sparked a revolution in food technology. Many products that are staples in our kitchens today got their big break during the war. Take Spam, for example. Before the war, it was just another canned meat, but its long shelf life and portability made it a logistical dream. It was shipped by the ton to every theater of war. While it became the butt of many jokes among soldiers, it provided reliable protein when fresh meat was impossible to get. Another game-changer was instant coffee. The military needed a way to give soldiers a quick caffeine fix without the hassle of brewing. Nescafé perfected the process, and soon, individual packets of instant coffee were a treasured part of the K ration, providing a small but vital boost to morale and alertness during cold mornings and long nights on watch. Chewing gum was also included in rations, not just as a treat, but because it helped soldiers relieve stress and keep their mouths moist when water was scarce. Dehydrated foods, from potatoes to eggs, were also developed to save weight and space on cargo ships. The war essentially became a giant laboratory for food preservation and processing. Once the food was produced and packaged, the next monumental task was getting it to the front. This was a journey that could span thousands of miles, across treacherous oceans and hostile territory. It started on American farms, moved to factories for processing, and then was loaded onto massive convoys of ships. These convoys, constantly under threat from enemy submarines, were the lifeline of the Allied war effort. A single Liberty ship could carry enough C rations to feed an entire division for days. Once the supplies reached a port, whether in England, North Africa, or a Pacific island, the journey was far from over. From there, an intricate network of trains, trucks, and even mules took over. The famous Red Ball Express in France was a massive non-stop truck convoy system that rushed supplies, including food, from the Normandy beaches to the advancing armies in the weeks after D-Day. In the rugged mountains of Italy or the dense jungles of Burma, mules were often the only way to get rations to isolated units. Every link in this chain had to work perfectly. A delay of just a few days could mean the difference between a well-fed army and one on the verge of collapse. Of course, the system wasn't perfect. It faced immense challenges that varied by theater. In the Pacific, the heat and humidity were a constant enemy. Canned goods would rust, labels would fall off, and food would spoil at an alarming rate. Soldiers would often open a can expecting one thing and find another, leading to the infamous game of ration roulette. In Europe, especially during the brutal winter of 1944 in the Battle of the Bulge, supply lines were stretched to the breaking point. Units were cut off, and soldiers had to survive for days on minimal rations in freezing conditions, dreaming of a hot meal. Despite the jokes about spam and the monotony of the rations, food was profoundly important for morale. It was more than just fuel. It was a connection to home, a moment of comfort in a world of chaos and fear. A warm meal from a field kitchen, however simple, was a powerful reminder of normalcy. The Army Quartermaster Corps understood this. Whenever possible, they made heroic efforts to provide soldiers with special meals for holidays like Thanksgiving and Christmas. Flying in thousands of turkeys and all the trimmings to the front lines was a logistical nightmare, but it was considered essential for the psychological well-being of the troops. These meals were a taste of home that told every soldier they hadn't been forgotten. When you compare the American logistical effort to that of the Axis powers, the difference is stark. While the American GI might have complained about the quality of his rations, he was, by and large, the best-fed soldier in the world. German and Japanese supply lines were constantly harassed and broken. By the later stages of the war, many Axis soldiers were suffering from severe malnutrition, subsisting on meager portions of bread and thin soup. Their inability to sustain their armies in the field was a major factor in their eventual defeat. The American ability to project not just military power but logistical power was a decisive strategic advantage. In the end, the story of how America fed its army is a testament to the nation's industrial might and organizational genius. It was a victory won not just by soldiers with rifles, but by farmers on tractors, workers on assembly lines, and cooks in field kitchens. It was a war on hunger, fought and won on a global scale. Behind every beach stormed, every city liberated, and every victory declared, there was a supply line humming with activity and a field kitchen that, against all odds, never stopped working. The humble can of beans and the packet of instant coffee were just as crucial to victory as the tank and the bomber. Thanks so much for watching. This story is a powerful reminder that wars are won not only on the battlefield, but also through the incredible efforts of those who support the fighters from behind the scenes.